Hello children, in this video we are going to learn a new poem from 7th Standard English, Term 3, Unit 2, Courage, written by Edgar Albert Guest. So before we are entering into the poem, let us all learn about the poet Edgar Albert Guest. 1881 to 1959 was a prolific England-born American poet who was popular in the first half of the 20th century and became known as the people's poet. His poems often add an inspirational and optimistic view of everyday life. So, children, the poet Edgar Albert Guest, he was born 1881 and he was died on 1959. So actually, he was born in England, but he brought up in America. So he became popular in the first half of the 20th century. So at the time, he became very popular around the world. Became known as the people's poet. So people started calling him people's poet because his works are very famous. His poems often had an inspirational and optimistic view of everyday life. So his work is always like inspirational and optimistic. ஆப்டிமிஸ்டிக்னா ஒரு நல்ல கருத்தை சொல்றது, நல்ல விஷயத்த சொல்றது. ஸோ இதை பற்றி தான் அவருடைய புக்ஸ் எல்லாமே இருக்கும். ஓகே, ஸோ லெட் us all learn the glossary. Instantaneous, happening or done immediately. உடனடியாக ஒரு விஷயம் நடக்குதுன்னா இன்ஸ்டன்ட் காஃபின்னு சொல்லுவோம்ல, தட் இஸ் கால்டு இன்ஸ்டன்டனியஸ். உடனடியாக. ஃப்ளிக்கர்டு, ஷோன் அன்ஸ்டெடிலி, மின்றது, மின்மினி. ஸோ ஃப்ளிக்கர்டுனா மின்றது. ஸோ மின்மினி பூச்சின்னு சொல்லுவோம்ல, தட் இஸ் கால்டு ஃப்ளிக்கர்டு. ஸ்ட்ரைவ், மேக் கிரேட் எஃபர்ட், பாடுபடுறது, தட் இஸ் கால்டு கஷ்டப்படுறது, பாடுபடுறது, உழைக்கிறது, தட் இஸ் கால்டு ஸ்ட்ரைவ். இன்கிரெயின்ட், ஃபர்ம்லி எஸ்டாப்ளிஷ்ட் அண்ட் ஹாட் டு சேஞ்ச், வேரூன்றி நிற்கிறது, அதுதான் இங்கிலீஷில் இன்கிரெயின்ட் அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறோம். ஓகே, ஸோ திஸ் இஸ் வாட் ஐ ஹவ் கிவன் இன் யுவர் டெக்ஸ்ட் புக். ஹியர் ஐ ஹவ் கிவன் யூ மோர் எக்ஸாம்பிள்ஸ், மோர் மீனிங்ஸ் ஃபார் யூ. டேஷ் அப்படின்னா ஓட்டம், டேரிங் துணிச்சல் உள்ள, டீட் அப்படின்னா செயல், டெஸ்பயர் அப்படின்னு விரத்தி, ஸ்ப்ரிங் அப்படின்னா இந்த ஸ்டோரியில் குதிக்கிறது அப்படின்னு அர்த்தம். ஃப்ளாஷ் அப்படின்னா வெளிச்சென்று, சோல்னா ஆன்மா, டக் இழுபறி, ரிசார்ட் புகலிடம், ஸ்ட்ரெயின் அப்படின்னா சிரமப்படுறது, கஷ்டப்படுறது, ஆப்ட் அப்படின்னா பொருத்தமாக, அப்ராப்ரியேட்னு சொல்றது, அதுதான் நம்ம ஷார்ட்டாக ஆப்ட் அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறோம், பொருத்தமான. டேஸ்லிங் அப்படின்னா ஒளிரக்கூடிய, அன்வேவரிங் அப்படின்னா நிகரில்லாத அப்படின்னு அர்த்தம். ஸோ தேர் இஸ் நோ கம்பேரிசன். ட்ரெய்ட் அப்படின்னா பண்புகள், ட்ரையல்னா சோதனை, பேஷன்ஸ்னா பொறுமை. ஓகே, பிரெத் சுவாசம், கிரீட் அப்படின்னா மத கோட்பாடு. ஸோ தீஸ் ஆர் த glossaries I have given you. Okay, so let's move to the poem now. Courage is not a brilliant dash, a daring deed in a moment's flash. It isn't an instantaneous thing born of despair with a sudden spring. It isn't a creature of flickered hope or the final tug at a slipping rope, but it's something deep in the soul of man that is working always to serve some people. So children, this is what the first 8 lines given for you in this poem. Okay, so I'm going to explain you, so listen to me carefully. So the poet says courage is not a brilliant dash. Dash means what? Running. So the courage is not a brilliant dash. Actually, what does mean by courage? Courage na தைரியம், துணிவு அப்படின்னு சொல்லுறது, that is called courage. So the poet says courage is not a brilliant dash, a daring deed in a moment's flash. So in the athlete, in the running race, the runners are not courageous people. So even though they are running so faster, even though they are winning in the competition, winning in the race, it doesn't mean that they have courage in them. A daring deed in a movement flash. Even though they are running in a movement flash, ரொம்ப சீக்கிரமா ஓடனா கூட, that people do not have the courage in them. Who says? The poet. It isn't an instantaneous thing born of despair with a sudden spring. So when we are despair, நம்மளே எப்பலாம் மனசு உடைஞ்சிருக்கிறோமோ, okay, so we call it is an instantaneous thing born of despair with a sudden spring. So whenever we are desperation, so நம்ம எப்பதெல்லாம் கஷ்டத்துல இருக்கிறோமோ, we feel like we want to come up in life, isn't it? We feel like we want to come up in life. We have to. We feel like something we have to achieve, isn't it? So at the time we feel like we have got courage in them. We only feel like that, but originally we do not have that courage in them, in us. Okay, that's what the poet says. Okay, even though the runner is running faster, he does not have that courage. Even though we have that spirit, even though we have that aim to achieve something, we should not have that courage. Who says? The poet. It isn't a creature of flickered hope on the final tongue at a slipping rope. So the poet says, the creature of flickered hope, or the final tongue at a slipper hope. So when we are hanging with a rope in a mountain or wherever we are, so at the time we are calling for help, isn't it? So at the time we feel like we should get that courage to come up the life, isn't it? So at the time we feel like we have that courage, but the poet says we do not have that courage, even though we are looking for help, even though we are trying our best. Where we have the courage, but it's something deep in the soul of man that is working always to serve some people. So the poet says, which is not something deep in the soul. Okay. So the courage should be in our soul, inside our soul of man. நம்ம உடம்புக்குள்ள நம்ம மனசுக்குள்ள நம்ம ஆன்மாக்குள்ள அந்த கரேஜ் இருக்கணும் அப்படி சொல்றாரு. That is always working for something. So the courage should be working to get something, to get the achievements, to get the aim. Okay, so that's what the poet says. So what are the rhyming words here? Dash, flash, thing, spring, hope, rope, man, plan. Okay, so these words are called rhyming words. Okay, so what is the rhyming scheme is? Dash, flash, both are pronouncing same. So a, thing, spring, both are pronouncing same. So b, and the next one is hope, rope, both are pronouncing same. So c, and the last two, man, plan, both are pronouncing same. So d. So this is what the rhyming scheme for them. So courage is not the resort in the work of life or game of a sport. Okay, so courage is not something a man call it. Courage is not the large resort in the life or a game or sport. So the poet says courage is not the last resort. Resortனா நம்ம அதாவது நம்ம புகலிடம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவோம்ல, that is called resort. So if we feel difficult in life, in game, in sport, whatever it is, okay, we feel like we have courage, we have to get the courage. But courage is not the last resort. So courage has to be in our soul. It should not be in our mind. It should not be in our heart. The courage we should feel, the courage we should have in our soul. The poet says. It is not a thing that a man can call at some future time when he is apt to fall. Okay, so when you are feeling difficult, when you are suffering, when you are worried, when you are feeling difficult to live, so at the time you are calling for help, isn't it? So at future time, it is not a thing that a man can call at some future time when he is apt to fall. So when you are feeling like you are falling down, so we call for help, we call for something, isn't it? So at the time we should feel like we want to get that courage. So we shouldn't have that courage actually. Okay, who says? The poet. If he has not it now, he will have it not. If he has not that courage in them right now, he will not have the courage any time anymore. So we should have the courage right now. If you do not have the courage right now, you will never have it anymore. Who says? The poet. When his strain is great and the piece is hot. Okay, when you feel like strain, எப்போ நீ கஷ்டப்படுறியோ, the great and peace is hard, நீ எப்போ வாழ்க்கை ரொம்ப கஷ்டம் நினைக்கிறியோ, okay, so at the time you should have that courage in you. He will have it not. Okay, so that's what the poet is asking us. We should have that courage. That means we have to develop it. For who would strive for a distant goal must always have courage within his whole, with his soul. So, who are all going towards goal or achievements, those people should have this courage. So if you want to achieve something, if you want to come up in life, if you want to go towards your aim, you should have that courage in you. Okay, courage is different, brave is different. So that's what the poet is asking us to. If you want to achieve something, you should have that courage in you. That's what the poet is asking. Okay, so what is the rhyming words are resort, sport, call, fall, not, hot, goal, soul. So these words are called rhyming words. The rhyming scheme is resort, sport, both are same. A, call, fall, B, not, hot, C, goal, soul, D. Okay, this is what the rhyming scheme. Okay, so let's continue in the next video.